You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Man, I am having so much fun with that new intro, Wendy. How are you doing today? And everybody that's out there listening in the great, beautiful world, welcome to another Prosper in the Kingdom podcast. Wendy,
Welcome.
how was your Easter?
It was great. It was great. And I will say, if you hear noises in the background, it's because I have a house full. Because so fun fact, or maybe you will judge me for this, but I'm 44 years old, and I have never cooked Easter dinner by myself from scratch and hosted it and bought it and paid for everything. Never in my entire adult life.
So up to this point, you've been just mooching off of the rest of your family, it sounds. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, like the few times I hosted, my parents would do the ham and you know what I mean? It was a collaborative thing.
Kind of a carry-in kind of deal.
Yeah. And then most of the time my parents host. And so I was like, everybody comes. So my sister was here. One of my older sons was here. 4 of my youngest kids were here. And I made all the food. And everyone was really impressed with my mac and cheese.
Nice. Well,
so
awesome. Yeah, I had a great Easter too. A little non-traditional. So here's my Easter dinner. My daughter and I grabbed cookout on the way back from Knoxville, watching baseball all weekend. So,
but it was an incredible weekend for you.
It was an incredible weekend. Yeah, no, it was. God is great. My son, as many of you know, goes to the University of Kentucky. He's a pitcher on their baseball team. We were in Knoxville, which was the number 4 ranked team in the country. And we ended up winning that series, and he was lights out. So if you get a chance, show Ben Cleaver some love out there, and had the whole family there, which was nice, and the weather was great. And not only that, my father got to my real dad, not my father in heaven, but my real dad, my life dad, I guess earthly dad. Yeah, there you
go. Father.
He got baptized this weekend, and it was just awesome. It was unexpected, and I got a video of it, which was great. And I could tell it was unexpected because he was wearing blue jeans when he got it done, which I'm sure made for a fun afternoon. But man, I started crying. It was just, it was great. It was great. So,
love that. Baptized on Easter Sunday.
Yeah. They had a call. The pastor had a call, and he's like, "Now's the time," and felt it and did it. And I just couldn't be more proud of him. So yeah, it was a perfect weekend for John. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are talking a little bit about, we're going through this series about God's blueprint for health, wealth, and wisdom. And we're on week 8, believe it or not, we're of the 12 weeks. And today we're talking a little bit more about your biggest asset, your greatest asset, and that is your health, your body that you've been given. Yeah, right.
Temple.
And, in Corinthians, it talks about, do you not know that the bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? So that is your own private little temple that God has given you during your time here on earth. You're not your own. You were bought at a price. And we're supposed to honor God with our bodies. And sometimes I think we forget about that and focus on acts and things like that. And, this is not a judgment zone by any means. And please don't take it that again. I want everybody to understand our whole purpose in Prosper in the Kingdom is to really help you become a better you, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that is for you. And, so we do that through teaching, through education and things like that. But, let's talk about that a little bit. Wendy, why do you think that the body matters in your kingdom assignment?
Well, so I'm going to actually share a real life example from yesterday of why.
Okay. All right.
So my dad is here. And for those that know my dad, he's probably more fit than 98% of the men I know. And
he's in pretty good shape. Yeah.
He is 68 years old. And last night or yesterday, all day yesterday, he was outside playing wiffle ball barefoot and shirtless with my kids, with his and my niece and nephew. So with the grandkids. And I think about like just the way that these grandkids see their grandfather. And like my dad is super active and involved in their lives. And he wouldn't be, I mean, 68 years old, he does way more than most grandparents that I know as far as being active with his grandkids. And when we're physically healthy, we can serve better, we can lead better, we can love better. Like there's just it. And when we're healthy and our body's a temple, we can be efficient, right? We can go do things and get out and spread the gospel and love the people we're supposed to love. And we're not consumed with sickness,
Mm-hmm.
And ailments. Not saying at 68 that he's perfect, right? Like he's like, oh, my hips in the back, whatever. But it doesn't slow him down. And I was just watching yesterday going, I mean, he's definitely in better shape than I am. And I'm like, this is my reason. Like this needs to be my front and center because I want to be 68 years old outside playing wiffle ball with my grandkids one day.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things. And I saw your post you had out there on social, and he reminded me of the ice plunge guy, Wim Hof, from I think he's from Norway. He's the guy that had invented the cold water plunge. Or I don't know that he invented it, but he's the one that kind of hyped it up and made it
popular.
big. Yeah, if you've ever get a chance, look up Wim Hof, Hof, I think is how you spell his last name. But he even looks like your dad based on your post. But it's kind of funny. But no, that's exactly right. I mean, when we were at the baseball game over the weekend, you had a lot of grandparents and older people there, and several of them, America were not in shape as a whole, and several of the older people were cruising around on the little scooters. My mom uses one of those, right? And you start thinking about it as, when you go into your retirement years, great, you've built up assets, you've followed what we're teaching, and you're debt free, you've got some money to do some things and things like that, but you're not physically able to enjoy it, to go on those hikes, to hang with your grandkids and play wiffle ball out in the backyard. And so, it's really frustrating that you put all that time and effort in over your lifetime, and now you can't reap the harvest because you're physically not able to do it. And that's why, again, we want to teach you how to be healthy, wealthy, and wise through biblical applications of just life lessons and things like that. So one of the big things we want to talk about today is really learning how to shift your mindset and look at your body. You're caring for your body is kind of that spiritual act of worship, right? Thank you, Jesus, for this body, this, that you've given me. And I want to serve you through that, through serving at my church or whatever whatever the case is. Help me take care of this resource that you've given me, just like your money, just like your assets and things like that. So, kind of let's look at some steps on how to do that. And, we're going to talk about 4 basic steps today. And a lot of people may say, oh, this is, kind of obvious, but is it? If it's so obvious, why isn't everybody doing it? Right. So just, if that's you, think of it as a reminder. We're not going to get into the 75 hard workout or all the specifics, but, really start challenging your mindset to start thinking about these things and then go seek out solutions at your level, whatever you want to do, but just start moving the ball forward. And number one, and I think that with, Robert Kennedy Jr. coming on the scene with MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, whether you're, conservative, liberal, let's take that off the table. Let's just talk about it as humans, as Christian brothers and sisters, and really looking at what we put into our body, right? The fuel for our body, it's so easy in America, especially to grab a bag off a shelf and just start snarfing down, chips or whatever the case is. And you start looking at some of the ingredients compared to our European counterparts. And you're like, what am I shoving into my body? Right. And a key verse that kind of reflects this is 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. Right. Should I be putting this crap, for lack of a better term, into my body? Food is fuel, not just comfort, right? Choose the food. I mean, are you going to buy cheap watered down gas to put in your car? No. I mean, you may not
Mhm.
put premium in it. You may go 87 octane, but you want to make sure it's good gas and things like that. Same thing for your body, because your body,
Mhm.
those are much harder to repair, right?
Mhm.
And eating well, looking well. And I want to stress this to people too. It's not about vanity, right? This isn't about, oh, look at me. And if you're going into it with that, well, that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But really just being able to run with your kids and be in shape, right? To have the muscle that's going to improve your memory and things like that, because it's all tied together. Your body is your system, right?
Mhm.
And really looking at, I don't know, what do you have to add to that, Wendy?
Yeah. Well, I think, the key is like looking at you're fueling this
Hmm.
body that God gave you. And it's not to say we can't enjoy, some, I call it soul food every once in a while. Right.
Yeah,
But,
comfort food, or even a
yeah,
bag of
well,
Cheetos. I like Cheetos.
I think people don't, it's easy to look at somebody that has an alcohol addiction or drug
Hmm.
addiction and go, oh, they need to fix that.
Yeah.
But in this world of no body shaming, like, I'm sorry, but like there is food addiction too, right? And there
Yeah. Oh
is,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, 100%. And there's on both ends of the spectrum, right?
Hmm.
Neglecting by not fueling our body at all, right? With eating disorders on that end. And then you got it on the other end where that's your comfort. That's what you go to.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is we've got to look at food for what it is, and which is fuel. And sometimes, yes, it's social and it's fellowship or,
Hmm.
around that. But being
Especially,
really
especially if you're Baptist, it's all about fellowship and food.
but being conscious about it, right? And just making it a priority. And I think that there was maybe a little bit of a stigma towards that.
Mhm.
I know at some point in my life, it was like, yeah, it was, people made it about vanity, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the more we're learning, the more we realize like we are pouring toxins into our bodies, and that's not what we should be doing. So really just
Yeah.
being conscious and intentional about fueling and looking at food as fuel, not
Yeah.
as pleasure.
Yeah, not only looking at, what are you putting in your body? Are you grabbing a piece of fruit? Are you grabbing a candy bar? Are you grabbing, something you made at home? Or are you grabbing something prepackaged, right?
Mhm.
And really, start small. It's not something you have to, make huge upgrades. Okay, I'm going to change it. Just start with one meal a day, right?
Mhm.
Just one meal a day, and look at it, make sure the food is nutritional, make sure it's real. I'm just going to say that and put that out there. Um, and focus on, one meal a day instead of grabbing a bag snack. Grab a piece of fruit, grab an apple, grab an orange, grab a banana, grab a carrot. I am a stress eater, so when I get stressed, I start snacking. And I've tried to shift from, and have successfully shifted from, grabbing a bag of chips to grabbing, carrots, a little bag of those little mini carrots or something like that. Try to buy organic when I can find them, and it's something where I get the same texture, the crunch, and everything else,
Mhm.
but it's so much better for you than
Mhm.
prepackaged potato chips. And I like chips, but let's be real, it's not good for you. And so that's just, again, focusing on looking at fuel in your body. And then, the second thing to look at it is moving that body daily, especially, I've got a desk job, you've got a desk job. So it's finding ways, and many people do, finding ways to keep your body moving. Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's not much time we need to spend on that, but just know, being intentional. There's so much, it's so much more than the way you look. It's the way you
Hmm.
feel, and getting
Hmm.
outside, people don't really understand the power of actual sunlight. So I think moving outside as much as possible.
Yeah.
My son Matthew's here. I'll tell you, he was a video game addict, man. It was heart wrenching as a mother to go, oh, I fueled this by allowing them to have the PlayStations and all that. But he was a video game addict. And he said to me yesterday, he's like, Mom, I've gone 3 months without video games. And this morning
Oh,
he was
that's awesome.
outside stretching, laying out in the sun, doing handstands, like being active. He's like, now I just get outside every day and I feel like I'm wasting my life away when I'm doing the video games. But getting outside, getting active. 1 Timothy 4:8 says physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things. But mentions physical training in there, but get out, move your body, do things, get your blood flowing. It doesn't just help you physically, it's going to help your brain. And you're more motivated to do things for the kingdom, in my opinion. Get your energy up, get you going. So.
Well, and I think it helps you, especially when you get outside and start moving around. I mean, I love going on hikes and stuff like that. It's finding the time, right? When can I work out? And it's really, again, just making the time for what's important. It's important that you get out and do it as a family, hey, let's go for a hike. And I'm not talking about, let's hire a Sherpa and we're going up Mount Kilimanjaro or whatever. No, what I'm talking about is go down to your local park, walk a track or whatever. What's that?
I mean, I'd love to do that too. But.
Well, yeah, I mean, baby steps, right? But it's one of those things that, again, moving your body. But even if you're in a situation where you're living, maybe you're in a large city and you can't really get out and you work from home or whatever, buy yourself a little walking treadmill, right? And when you're on Zooms, things like that, walk while you're on a Zoom. I mean, you can do that. And that's the beauty of take advantage of the technology and things like that. You don't need a gym membership. I'm really huge into that, the whole resistance training, right? And, it's just using your body and trying to work out. I mentioned this, I think, the last couple of episodes where you do your thing, like just going around your day, you'll lean and do push-ups off a countertop or whatever. You were telling me about that story. And I think that's, that's great because it's a way to work it in and not carve out an hour to work out. You don't really need an hour, guys. I mean, especially if you're working out at home, 15, 20 minutes, right? 10 minutes a day. If that's more than you're doing now, that's a great first step, right?
Yeah.
But I would challenge. Go ahead.
For our book club this month, we're doing high performance habits, and on the productivity section, he talks about set a timer for 50 minutes. Do not do a project longer than 50 minutes without a break and moving your body. He says, get away from your desk, walk around briskly, do a few jumping jacks, whatever. And it refuels your mind to get back to focus. We're such a distracted world that actually moving your body will help you get back into focus as well.
Exactly. And that's something that, I would challenge everybody. It's kind of an action step, make sure you're spending 10, 20 minutes a day at minimum, walking or stretching or, doing some type of exercise. And when people say exercise, it's not, I'm pumping iron or running 20 miles. It's just moving, just like you were talking about. So that's number 2 is move that body daily. Number 3, and this is something that's overlooked, especially, I know I used to do this. I'm like, sleep when I'm dead, right? It's the rest and recharge, right? Rest and recharge. And really looking at God created rest. I mean, he talked about, he made the whole everything in 7 days, and he did it in 6, but the 7th day was rest.
Chapter 1 of the Bible, God rested. I mean, I think it's enough said.
I don't think he slept till noon, right? So if you're getting 13, 15 hours of sleep a day, that's probably the opposite direction. But no, I think especially here in the United States, we work so hard, and it's all about go, 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 right? And that leads to mental stress, physical stress, spiritual stress because you're cranky inside. I know I'm in a much better mood when I get a good night's sleep as opposed to lack of sleep and I'm on edge and it's like I'm just waiting for somebody to come at me. It's like and nobody wants to be like that. But making sure you're getting 7-8 hours of sleep every night, and making sure you're taking time even during the day, like you said, don't bury yourself on a project for 8 hours. Set your timer on your watch or whatever every 50 minutes. Just, hey, take a 5-minute break, right? And really just kind of refocus.
And here's the thing too, with when you're chronically exhausted, when you're just pooped all the time, you're not mentally able to, I mean, it's like your guard's down against the attacks of the enemy, right? How many of you are more moody when you're lacking sleep, right? If you're exhausted, you're snapping at people more. Everything's about, I'm exhausted. How many people do you talk to? They're like, how are things going? I'm just exhausted.
Especially new parents, you're working too much.
So tired. It makes us all when we're exhausted, we're self-centered. we don't have the energy to be outward focused. And so
yeah.
we've
And
got
the
to,
patience, your patience is really kind of taken away at that point too, because you're just on edge the whole time. At least, that's how I am challenged by it. But, again, it's one of those things that make sure you're putting down your phone, don't watch TV in bed, go to bed, and, and try to disconnect from, TV, screens, stuff like that, at least half an hour before bed, and just go to bed. Go to bed at a good time, get up bright and early, early bird gets the worm, do a little exercise, have coffee, have your spiritual time or whatever, go on a walk. But again, make sure you're scheduling that time in for resting and relaxation. So, and then lastly, and this goes back to a little bit, if as long as you're following these things, you've got to look for stress and anxiety. Like I said, I'm a stress eater. So I get stressed out because of work or whatever. All of a sudden I'm snacking, right? Now that's a mental thing on my thing that I'm kind of working through, and I figured out some hacks and things like that. But again, turn it over, man. Just relax. You got the big guy on your side, right? As a Christian. And Philippians 4, 6 and 7 says, don't be anxious about anything. Not some of the things, not just your money or your job or your kids. It says, don't be anxious about anything.
do not worry is like all through the Bible. It is everywhere. And I think when he says it that much, we're supposed to listen, right? But it's about, again, it's that when we surrender, when we give things to God, when we say like, not my will, but yours, right? We can let go of all the things that stress us out and trust that he's the one that holds our future. He's our provider. And I think, we're in this world right now where it's like that hustle culture and the do this, do that. My background noise is getting loud. Sorry. I have a loud family. Anyway, and it's just keeping up and and, distractions everywhere and faces in our phones. Like we just need to take a pause, right? And, prayer, worship, gratitude, get plugged in, get out, get a hobby, right? Do things to help get rid of that stress and anxiety in life and focus on what's important. And again, stress and anxiety is all self-centered, right? Instead of focused on the Lord and serving others.
Relax. And that's the thing too, you look at, again, going back to what you're putting in your body and things like that. And there's, it's not just food, it's supplements and things like that. And really looking at what are the right ones. I know you introduced me to some things that are just, off the hook, especially guarding against stress and anxiety. I struggle with that or did. And my daughter, struggled with that as well. And you introduced me to, it's called Calm. And it's basically just herbal supplements. And I mean, it's like, it's amazing how quickly and rapidly it works. And it really helps, it's not a drug, right? I try to avoid drugs at all costs, and I'm talking both legal and illegal. That's a no-go. I try to stay as healthy as I can, or getting there. But it's one of those things that really kind of just keeping it all in perspective, right? We were not created to be so stressed out and overweight and unhealthy during our time here on this earth, right? And it's supposed to be a great experience. Some better than others, I guess. But we have an ownership. We have our role to play in that, and that's really kind of taking care of yourself and your body. And again, just to kind of recap, number one, make sure you're putting in the proper fuel into your body, whether it's food, supplements, or whatever the case. What am I eating here? What, I can't even say this word that's on the side of this package. What is it? And do some research, right? Move your body daily. Motion creates emotion, and it's going to make you happier, live longer, and everything else. Make sure you're getting the rest and relaxation to recharge your not only your body, but your bones, your joints, and your mind. And then lastly, guard against that stress and anxiety, and realize, is this really important in the big scheme of things? Why am I stressed out about this? Because it's all going to work out in the end, right? So I'm going to challenge everybody here to, I'd love to hear from you. Put in the comments, what area of health do you feel God is prompting you to focus on right now? Drop it in the comments, right? We want to hear from you. Also, don't forget, show some love, right? Give us that little subscription, that like button if you're getting something out of here. And Wendy, what else do you have anything else to add and close us out?
I would just thought about this. We have something for those of you that are watching this live or catching it, right when the episode's released. We have a challenge coming up in May. Speaking of fueling our bodies properly.
Yes.
And
yes.
If you're catching this after that, then just still drop in the comments, burn. We're going to use the word burn as the key word there. Still do that, because this will be something that we can repeat month after month and after month. But we have something called the Body Burn Challenge. And this literally, I went through the workbook the other day, and sometimes we don't know how to fuel our body properly, because there are so many people saying so many things out there, right? Like, do keto, do this,
a lot of noise,
go vegan, go, and it's like, what do I even do? Where do I even start? And so this is like an amazing comprehensive guide that you can customize specifically for you and your activity level and everything. And it literally lays out a 30-day plan. It's amazing and tells you exactly how to fuel your body for optimal health and for your body to be the most efficient at like using your energy. So if you guys
love it. So there you go, folks. So again, your body isn't just about you, keeping it healthy, keeping it moving. It's a vessel for the purpose of God. Steward it wisely and watch how he'll multiply your impact. So again, thanks everybody. Show some love. Give us that little subscribe, that like button. And, if you've got a topic or something you want to hear about as we wrap up this series, let us know. We'd love to kind of work with you on that and collaborate. So we'll see you next week as we continue to build kingdom, health, wealth, and wisdom. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another Prosper in the Kingdom. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.